Hi everyone. So before I jump into my video, I have to talk about what's going on in the world. And I'm not talking about the virus or COVID-19 or anything like that. I'm talking about the Black Lives Matter movement. And it's something that I feel very strongly about, and I feel that everyone should feel really strongly about. I don't know why this is a debate for some people, but I have to go on record saying that Black lives do matter, and we need to be supporting this movement. We need to be doing everything that we can to support our fellow humans in this world, especially Black lives. So I'm going into this today saying, please do what you can. I know a lot of people can't go out and protest or don't feel safe to for multiple reasons, but donate. And if you can't donate, sign petitions, send letters to your local politicians. We need to spread this word, and it takes people, like me, white, with privilege, talking about these issues and having these difficult conversations with your friends, with your family members, even if they agree with you. Talk about these issues, say their names of the victims who have passed. Let's talk about this. Let's get this motion going. Let's keep it rolling. We've got a great start going so far, but we need to keep moving and we need to keep pushing. We can't stop until this fight has been won. Hey everyone, it's Shauna. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing the mid-year freak out book tag because we are halfway through the year. I don't know how that happened. You probably noticed I am in a very different setting. So with everything going on with COVID, I unfortunately had to move back home for a little while. I mean, it's unfortunately, but not, because I love my family. I'm really close with them, so I'm glad to be home. But unfortunately, because me and Tony's lives has kind of been put on hold because of everything. I think I mentioned in a previous, video that I had lost my job, everything going on. So we had to move back home for a little while, but it's okay. We're spending time with family. We're kind of recuperating a little bit, trying to get back up on our feet. So in the meantime, all of my videos are going to be filmed at my parents' house or at Tony's parents' house, one or the other. So you'll get used to these surroundings. But all of that aside, let's jump into the first question. So the first question is the best book you've read so far this year. Because obviously I am at home, I have brought, a bunch of my books back, but this is obviously not nearly as much. Everything else is in storage, so I won't be able to show you the books, the physical copies anyway, that I do have. So just bear with me on that. The best book that I've read so far this year is kind of tied between two. You guys have heard me talk a lot about these books, but My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell, and it's also tied with Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Both of these books were 5-star reads, and I couldn't choose between either of them because I had to put both of them on this list because they were just so fantastic. Daisy Jones and the Six, if you're not familiar, it takes place, centered around a fictional rock band from the 70s, 80s era, and it's kind of like a documentary, and the way that it's written, and it's phenomenal. The story is phenomenal. The characters are phenomenal. Everything about it is amazing. So of course that had to go on this list. My Dark Vanessa has easily become probably one of my favorite books of all time. I know that this book is very dark, if you couldn't already tell by the name, but this book is centered around a girl named Vanessa who got into a relationship with her teacher when she was in high school. She was about 15 years old. They started, this whole affair kind of thing. And of course she was a minor. He was in his 30s or 40s. And so he was very much a lot older. And, all of that kind of came about. And then we jump back and forth in time between when she was meeting this guy and, they were getting to know each other, and their relationship kind of started when she was in school, to present day time, where she is now in, her early 30s, and having to cope with all of kind of what happened, because these allegations actually come out about this teacher that he was involved with several other students after her. So she's kind of coping with that on top of what she went through, and was it consensual, was it not? All of these different factors, and it's a beautifully written book. I know a dark book like that probably should not be in my top books, but it is because it's just, like I said, so beautifully written, and the story is so intriguing. I read this within like 2 days. I sped through it, and this is this author's debut novel. I say, who wrote it? Oh my God. Okay, yeah, I did. Yes, My Dark Vanessa, an amazing book. It's incredible. It's definitely very triggering if you are interested at all at it. Words. Very triggering if you were at all interested in reading it, just so you know before going into it. Obviously, if, you know, those themes enough didn't kind of trigger you, this book definitely can. So just be warned of that going into it. I definitely had to stop myself a couple of times because it got to be very, very dark. But it's an amazing book. It sparks a lot of great conversations that you can have with your friends or with family, loved ones, anything like that, about consent and what it means, you know, to be abused and all of those things. So these conversations are obviously difficult, but this book really gives a good platform to start those conversations. So the second question is, what is the best sequel that you've read this year? So I haven't read too many series this year, and if I have, I've only read the first book in the series and not the sequel yet. So this one, it was almost by default that this kind of won, but also just, I think that the author does deserve praise for this. But the series that I'm talking about is the Pathfinder series by T.A. White. I've been reading this with my book club. It was a trilogy, and the first two were really not that great. We pushed through them. I mean, they were good enough to kind of keep reading, but it wasn't like we were super excited about it and we were super in love with it. So when we went into the third one, we kind of expected kind of a lot of the same, but it ended up being really surprising in that it was actually really great. She ended on a very strong note. There were obviously a couple of things we as a club wanted to change about it, but overall, it was a great series, and I've talked about this in previous videos, this series, so if you want to know more about that, you can go back and look at those videos. But yeah, I would have to say, you know, that was the best series, or it wasn't the best series, but it was definitely the best sequel out of all of them, was the third book in that series. I didn't even mention the name. The name of the book was called Wayfarer's Keep by T.A. White. That is the third one in the series. The first one is called Pathfinder's Way. The second one is Mist's Edge. And then the third one is Wayfarer's Keep. Wayfarer's Keep is the one that was by far the best. And I was so glad that she ended it on a really, really strong note and a really great ending to the whole series. So the next question is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet, but you really want to? I'm really, really excited to read Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm really excited to read this book. This came out in May, I believe. This book centers around two girls who don't know each other. One lives in Puerto Rico and the other one lives in New York. And the girl who lives in Puerto Rico, her father comes to visit her every now and then. And when she arrives at the airport to pick him up on this specific day that he's supposed to land, she finds a crowd of crying people, is what the summary says. And the girl in New York also realizes that her father has passed away, and these two girls who have been separated, never knew about each other, realize they have the same father and they're on the same journey and they're on the same grieving kind of path for their father that, you know, they didn't know the other existed. So this book has been highly acclaimed. I really, really, really want to read it. It sounds very intriguing. It's written in verse, so I'm really excited to kind of dive into that one. So the next question is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And I'm going to be basic because I can't help it, but I'm so excited for Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. You guys, like, we've been waiting for this book for way too long. I don't know, I'm just excited, and nobody else really understands my excitement who are not book people, who didn't really read the series. Like, Tony is like, why are you so excited about this book? It's the same book, it's the same conversations, because obviously it takes place, you know, in Edward's perspective, but it's Twilight, but in Edward's mind. So he doesn't get it, but I don't care. I'm so excited for it. So I'm gonna be basic, and that's gonna be my choice for this question. So the next question is kind of a downer from the last one though. But what is the biggest disappointment of the year for you so far? So I would have to say my biggest disappointment of this year so far, it had to be The Diviners by Libba Bray. And I'm not talking about the whole series because I haven't finished it yet. I've only read the first two. The second one, obviously, it was definitely a lot better, but the first one was such a letdown. And I know people talked about it being, you know, not great. Like, it gets better as the series goes along, but I was still really let down that the first one kind of sucked. It really was not that great, and I was really sad about it, even though people had warned me. But the second one, I will say, I'll leave it on a good note because the second one definitely did a lot better, and I'm really excited to read the third. And then obviously, I think there's one more, the fourth. I don't know, don't quote me on that. But yeah, The Diviners will probably be my biggest disappointment this year. The next question is, what is the biggest surprise of the year? Something you didn't expect to be as good as it was. And I honestly have to say, The Tattooist of Auschwitz was incredible. I have highly talked this book up in another video, but I have to talk about it again because it's incredible. And you know, I really didn't know a whole lot going into it. I just kind of found it on my Scribd app and started listening to the audiobook. I don't have a physical copy. I only listened to the audio version, but biggest surprise of the year, just because I think I went in with no expectations and not having heard anything about it, not really knowing for sure what it's about, just kind of diving right in, and I was blown away by how thoroughly researched it was and how the story itself was so intriguing, and knowing also that it was real, like it actually happened, you know. I mean, of course, the Holocaust, but as far as like the couple goes that are in this book, Lale and his wife, and it's an incredibly written book. Like I said, thoroughly researched. And I highly recommend it for anybody who is interested in any of, you know, history or just interested in a good story overall, because it's heartbreaking, obviously, a lot of the time, but it's very hopeful and it's very uplifting. Reading these people's, you know, how they survived this and how they persevered through it, you know, no matter what was thrown at them. So the next question is, words again, I can't speak. Who is your favorite new author or new to you author? So she's definitely not a new author, but she's very new to me, and I have to say it's Taylor Jenkins Reid, because I was so entranced by Daisy Jones and the Six. It was incredible, and I actually brought home The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I know she wrote this before Daisy Jones and the Six. Daisy Jones came out just recently, so that one's a little bit of her older work, but I'm really excited to read it, and I am just excited to dive into more of her work because I think she's an incredible writer, and you could just tell that right off the bat, and anything that she writes I will probably read. Okay, so the next question is, who is your newest fictional crush? So I haven't read a whole lot this year of people that I'm really crushing on. None of them really kind of do anything for me. I mean, they do, like, as far as, you know, I want the characters to get together, but I haven't really crushed on anybody that hard. The only person I would have to say, and my book club is gonna hate me for this, but I have to say Fallon from the Pathfinder series, because he's just a big, strong, manly man, and he has a lot of issues. So I'm gonna throw that out there, and that's probably why my book club is gonna be mad at me, because he has a lot of personal issues and possessiveness and things like that. So I don't like him for that, but I do like him because he is very protective, and he's always there for Shea, the girl that he falls in love with. And like I said, he's just a big, strong, manly man, so I kind of like that. I mean, but he kind of won by default. Again, like, I haven't found any other characters that I could really pick from. Looking through my list, I'm like, there's nobody in here that I'm really crushing on at all, which is kind of strange because there's always at least one, and there really hasn't been any this year. So kind of a disappointment, but Fallon, you won by default. Sorry, book club. I had to. The next question after that is, who is your new favorite character overall? So again, this was a little kind of hard to choose because, again, I really haven't been vibing with a lot of characters, or, you know, if I have, they're so well written in that they have a lot of flaws that I'm like, yeah, you're human, but I'm not, I don't know. Anyways, so the person that I chose though is actually Jo from Little Women. I just really love her character. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it, because Jo is just a person I think I've always kind of wanted to be, you know, like writing all the time, you know, she was always had her nose stuck in a book or a notebook, writing things down, you know, writing stories, telling stories. She cared deeply about her family. She followed her dreams no matter what era she was in, and she believed that women should have the same rights. And I really highly commend her for that, for doing all of that in that time period. And, you know, for the author to have written that type of character for that time period was really commendable. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Jo from Little Women. So the next question is a book that made you cry. Now, there were a couple, and because I cry very easily, if you don't know that about me. I have not cried in a video yet, so we haven't reached that point, but I do cry pretty frequently over TV shows, over videos, movies, what have you, any kind of story that's moving, happy or sad. But actually, I had to choose between a couple, so I'm just gonna say, again, The Tattooist of Auschwitz, because it was just such a heart-wrenching and a heart-moving, is that a word, story just about this couple finding each other in the darkest of times, and it was really, really moving. If I haven't already said it, highly recommend. Please go read it now. Even if you have to stop this video, I'll be okay with that. Y'all are probably really gonna judge me for this one, just because it doesn't go together. But the next question is a book that made you happy. And I chose The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. And I know this is a very depressing story. This is a very sad book. There's a lot of complications in it, but I chose it because the author herself has such a unique writing style, and that in itself made me happy reading her work. But I also chose it because it's such a good story of hope and fighting through grief and finding your way. And yes, there is a lot of tragedy that strikes for this boy, but it's also, he is working through a lot of things, and he has a lot of issues, but you know, he overcomes a lot of it. And I don't know, it's very hard to explain why it made me happy, but it just did. It just gave me a really nice feeling near the end of the book. Obviously, all throughout it was kind of sad, but by the end of it, I was just like, oh, this book, it made me happy. It really did. So that's what I'm going with. The next question is the favorite book to movie adaptation that you saw this year. So I haven't seen a whole lot. One of them was The Goldfinch, and the movie was kind of crap compared to the book. I hate to say it, because I went in with, you know, I put all of those things I heard aside, and I said, I'm gonna go in and just judge it for myself. And I really did try to give it a chance, and I feel like they just screwed it up. The acting was phenomenal, don't get me wrong, it was great, but the way that they went about telling the story just kind of ruined it for me. So can't say that one. And the only other one I saw this year was It. I read the book, I posted the reading vlog, so go and check that out. I'll link that down below. But the movie itself was, I have to say, it was good though. I really did like, I watched both parts. They were great. But honestly, I know people really didn't like part 2, but I thought part 2 was better. Unpopular opinion, I guess, but I really did like It part 2. I think just because it incorporated a lot more of what was missing from the first one. and it kind of followed the book a lot more in the second one than it did in the first one. And so that's kind of what I appreciated a bit more, because there were a lot of things missing from the first one, like the clubhouse. Like, who can leave that out of the first one? They were kids. You have to have that in the first one. I digress. But they put it in the second one, so that made me really happy. But overall, I think, you know, both of them are really great, but I think part two kind of was more my favorite just because they incorporated more of the book stuff. So I have to go with it. The next question is, what is the most beautiful book that you bought this year? And since most of my books are in storage back in California, it was kind of hard to choose. So I had to choose with what I had here because I couldn't remember what else I bought. I would have to say it has to be down between these two, between Winterwood. I mean, come on, how gorgeous is that? That's really pretty. The Water Dancer, because this is just, it speaks volumes, and it's just so pretty. I mean, look at that. It's gorgeous. So I have to go with these two, and they both had blue in them. That wasn't on purpose, but they look so nice. They both look so nice. Next question is, what are some books that you need to read by the end of the year? That is a long, exhaustive list, so I'm only gonna name a few. One of them being the Scythe series. I really need to get on that. I really need to read it. So I brought it, I'm gonna read it, so it's all good. Another one that I do have to read is The Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I need to read that. I need to get on that series, and the Raven Boy series. I need to read all the series because I have not been reading any series. I need to finish the Diviner series too. That's on the list. What else do I need to read? Oh, I'm reading Children of Blood and Bone right now, so I need to read the second one in that series. Yeah, see, I got it right here. Well, the first one. I don't have the second one, but I need to read the second one. I'm almost halfway through the first one, Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. Yeah, I gotta get that second one and read that one. So that one's on the list too. Okay, so the last question is, who are some booktube content creators that you love? And again, I have a lot of these because I've been following a lot of people on Twitter and getting my feet wet in that area because I'm not usually on Twitter. I don't have my own personal account on Twitter. I only have the booktube page or the book Twitter page for this channel too. They're all connected, you know what I mean. So I've been finding a lot of really great new content. I have to say, well, okay, so this one aside, you know, because she is a bit bigger, but I have to say Kate's Book Date, because I love, 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 love her channel. She is a bit bigger, obviously. She's not a small booktuber, but I just love her content. It's just so great. And of course, Read by Zoe. Those are like some top ones. Some smaller booktubers that I really want to promote on this channel is The Redhead Reader. She's fantastic. She's so funny. I just discovered a lot of her videos recently, and I think she's fabulous. And her recommendations have been spot on so far. So you guys should go check her out. Another YouTube content creator that I do love is Thoroughly Enjoyed Books. She's got really cool content. Love her hair, first of all. And her voice is fantastic. I love listening to her speak. And not just because of her accent, but just the way that she talks is so soothing. But she's also got really great recommendations, so you guys should check her out. Another great creator is Incessant Bookworm. Again, I just recently discovered her as well. But she's got really great content too. And obviously a lot of these small booktubers don't have a lot of content out yet, such as myself. I only have a few videos, but they put out really quality videos. So definitely Incessant Bookworm, you should check her out too. And you should check out all of the other small booktubers, you know, find them on YouTube, find them on Twitter, find them on Bookstagram, wherever you can, and just go and follow pages, you know, subscribe, listen, be a part of the content. Yeah, so those are some really great YouTube content creators that I follow. I obviously follow a lot more. Those are just a couple that I wanted to give a shout out to. I know I haven't really spoken with them, you know, personally a lot of the time. I've commented on a couple of videos here and there or on Twitter, you know, replied to tweets and things like that. But I love their content, so I want to promote it. I want to talk about it. I want to spread the love, you know, just all things bookish. We should all support each other. We're all trying to do the same thing, talk about books. So yeah, go check those channels out. If you haven't already, Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. I would really appreciate it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed and get, notifications anytime I post a new video. I'm going to be trying to post a little bit more consistently now that I've stopped moving cross country. Moving from California to Florida was a feat, but I'm done now and I'm all settled in. So hopefully I'll be able to post content on a more regular basis. But yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I will see you guys in my next one.